Hey guys, I'm back. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm not sure where you are in the world, but I really appreciate you checking out my video and my Instagram. We are continuing the sign that we left off, which was the Aquarius. And I was giving you guys a really good example from my heart of what Aquarians are to me and how I see them. And now we're just going to get into a bit more explanation. I've got another coffee and I've had a break, and we're going to just jump straight back into this video. So without further ado, I just wanted to re-clarify, if you haven't seen part 1 of Aquarius, please go back and have a look, because this part 2 might confuse you a little bit if you haven't seen it. I have divided this, the Aquarian for me is divided into 2 parts, which is either 1A or B2. And by the way, I didn't mention the A Aquarian, which is very shallow, very superficial, very childish, isn't going to ever really step over into B. I don't ever see A Aquarian going into B Aquarian. And B Aquarian in the first part of the video is deep, dark, complicated, wants to help the world, wants to save the world, but don't touch me, don't come near me, heavily involved in politics, and the artist and the scientist. So we've got this complicated dark side of Aquarius in type B, and then we've got the A. So I just wanted to re-clarify that again. Okay, but in this video, like I said before, we are really focusing on the B's here, because A's don't really, they don't really change. Like, they'd be watching cartoons and baby shit and very immature and just really obsessed with shopping. I used Paris Hilton as a really good example of Paris Hilton when she was younger. Very alien-like, very detached, and almost kind of making a mockery of people that are below her, I guess, because I used to watch that show, The Simple Life, and really think, how could someone be so cold to treat people like that? But that's just, they didn't know any different. So that was the example that I used for part Aquarius A. And so, yeah, let's get on with this. So Aquarians tend to only hang out with people that are smarter than them. They're interested by the intellectual mind. That gets them really turned on. Like Gemini, the other air sign, Aquarius needs a smart person to really get their dick hard. Aquarius is very cerebral, so they need to feel understood in the mind and seen in the mind to feel close integration. Mind connection, you need to win over their mind like Virgo first before you get to fuck them or be fucked by them. So that's how they work when it comes to choosing a partner or hanging out with people. They need someone that they feel that they can evolve from, someone that they can learn from. And this sign wants to learn. They do have a thirst for learning. And Aquarius is really, their concept of beauty is very unconventional. And I've noticed that in my life with people that are Aquarius. They look at conventional Western standard beauty as repulsive. These guys go for people that kind of are unconventional. So they might go for people that might be really, really, really tall, or really, really, really short, or a guy that might be slightly cross-eyed and that was never corrected. Or they might go for someone that has some kind of intellectual disability. Like, these guys are very open to dating people that have mental health conditions or disorders, and they find that more interesting and attractive than they would go for like the type A would go for of Aquarius, which would be like someone they date someone on the size of their television, how many inches their plasma screen was, or their Gucci bag collection. Type B Aquarius would rather hang out with people that are intellectually disabled than they would with someone who's shallow or superficial. And that's why this sign, Aquarius, as a humanitarian, really does well in caring for people that do suffer from mental illness. A lot of Aquarians work around mental health because they themselves know what it's like to be different or treated differently. And they empathize with people that are always on the margins or on the fringes of society. That's one thing that I've noticed about them. So their version of good looking is very different. and they have no problem with people on the spectrum. That's what I wanted to make really clear. Like, this sign has no problem with people that are on the spectrum, none at all, no qualms. And that's a really special and a beautiful thing. But yes, this sign, for the most part, if they're not self-aware, would really reject astrology. And that's how I know someone is an Aquarius, when they, reject it, because a lot of them don't like to be put into any kind of box. And we touched on that earlier. And you need to look at your chart if you are an Aquarian to see where. I'd like to know where your moon is. I mean, that would probably be the best thing you could do, is find out where your moon is if you are an Aquarian. Now, the opposite sign to Aquarian is the Leo. And we talked about in my earlier videos that a lot of the traits from the opposite side of your chart, a sign in your chart or on the chart in the wheel, goes across into your chart at times. And I often thought to myself, some Aquarians really do come across as a Leo, very bold, very unafraid to have like their, tits out girls, very sharp lipstick and neon colors, and that type of flair for an ascetic could be easily mistaken for a Leo who would definitely do that. So sometimes when I look at someone, I can sometimes on first glance look at someone and go, oh, it's a Leo. No, it's an Aquarian. That's just their persona. And they're very much stuck back in a time period that they identify with. And I've got a theory that with Aquarians, they carry a lot of data over from past lives into this life. So when Aquarian comes into this life, if you're an Aquarian, you could attest to what I'm about to say, is that perhaps you see life as more like remembering the world that you came back into, rather than seeing it as like fresh eyes from a baby relearning it all over again. Because that's how I feel a lot of the time, actually. Like, Aquarians will come into this life with a really deep understanding of the world. The dark Aquarian, Aquarian B. By the way, we're talking about Aquarian B. I just don't want to get you guys confused about which one I'm talking about, because they'll know about time periods that have taken place on the earth. They'll know about wars that have taken place on the earth. There was a little girl that was the other week on TV, and she was just like 4 or 5, and she was talking all about Saddam Hussein. And the way that she spoke about him, by the way, Saddam Hussein was a really dark Taurus. And I told you in the Taurus videos, Taurians are not good leaders. But the way that she was talking was just so otherworldly. And I'm thinking, the amount of intelligence in this little girl, that she can just speak so eloquently and so decisively with her choice of words and her vocabulary at that age, was I was just blown away. And yeah, so they have like this pre-existing knowledge and enlightenment that they are just naturally born with. And it's a really incredible thing for an Aquarian child. I do find Aquarian men darker than the Aquarian female. And that's probably my own dealing with Aquarius, because I don't know really many female Aquarians. I've got a couple of friends, but not like, I've had more experience with Aquarius men than I have female. So I would say, in my opinion, in my heart, I feel that Aquarius men are darker when it comes to Aquarius. And it's not like they have a choice. Well, they do. I believe that when the soul comes down to be born, we are over this, we see like the sea of all the potential souls that we could be incarnated into. And I believe that we choose our parents, and we choose the life that we are projected into the physical matter for the process of learning. And it's all about perspective. And so I will say, I've seen a lot of Aquarians that they are born to parents that don't want them, or they're born to parents that really were like in their late 40s or 50s when they had them, and they were just too old. So by the time the Aquarian grows up, it's like their parents are already halfway dead or too old. I see a lot of Aquarians coming into life like that, and it makes me sad, and I've often wondered why that is the case. And I've come to understand that I think that it could be because that's part of the journey of Aquarius. It's part of the journey of their life, is to be born into a family that doesn't want them, doesn't understand them, and they have to go out into the world and make a home in the world without feeling like a home that they had to begin with. So yeah. And if you're an Aquarian and that is the case, and I think it might be for some of the Aquarians watching this video, then leave me a comment below and let me know if that was the case for you, because I have seen it and you're not alone with that. It's same with the Capricorn thing. They kind of get born into this place where they're everything that could go wrong will, but with Aquarius it's more like they come from a place of being thrown away or pushed away or swept under the carpet kind of thing, swept under the rug kind of thing. That's how I feel. I see a lot of them are like that. And that's why Aquarius always goes for the underdog and they always go for left field stuff. They don't like mainstream stuff. If this was a sign that was a movie genre, it would be vintage films that are very period pieces and very left field stuff. So I often think a vibrational match to Aquarius in the book world would probably be Alejandro Jodorowsky, a lot of his work. The Mountain, the film The Mountain, very weird, very metaphysical. A lot of Aquarians would be attracted to that. Or Alan Moore, a lot of Alan Moore. If you're an Aquarian, maybe you haven't heard of these, maybe go check it out. Alan Moore's writing, did V for Vendetta, he's done Jerusalem, he's done a lot of incredible work. And that would be something that you'd be interested in, because Aquarius would see that as a potential to make a new world within a world. They're always looking to rebuild this world. They're always looking to change this world. They're never happy with the state of affairs that the world that they're born into is. They're always looking for ways to shift or change it. And that's a beautiful thing, because this thing ushers in new ideas, because they know inherently the system that we're in is fucked. So yeah, things like that would definitely be something that they would be interested in. And a lot of Aquarians like to dress up as mermaids. They love mermaids, so they have like mermaid hair. A lot of them have like pink hair is very common with an Aquarius, and wavy pink hair. Even, and a lot of melanated women that are black or born of darker skin, they are so beautiful. Like they have very beautiful features. I've noticed particularly with the ethnic Aquarians, brown Aquarian women particularly, and Aquarian men as well. Aquarian men have a very sharp eyes, very bead-like eyes, I've noticed. But Aquarian women, they have very frosty features. So they could have like maybe a thinner lip if it's a white girl. And they, Aquarian looking, I mean, it's all in the eyes, really. It really is with any sign. But Aquarians on a physiological level, if it's a white Aquarian, they tend to have very fair skin that burns very easily from the sun. So it could be like, these guys are gingers. And it would kind of be like, well, as if life wasn't hard enough feeling like you're an Aquarian and you're an alien to humans, but now you're a ginger Aquarian. So it's like, you probably have more complexes than I would probably be prepared to even bring up. But I'm just saying for the record. Now, this sign does, and the shadow side, does suffer from something, sip of the coffee, does suffer from something that is very detrimental to an Aquarian. And you're probably thinking, what? Cognitive dissonance. If you don't know what that word is, if you don't know what that means, I would suggest you go look it up. I'm not going to say too much more about that, but if you are an Aquarian and you're watching this video on your shadow side, that's probably the biggest problem that you're going to have with life. And I'll expand on that a little bit later. The cognitive dissonance of an Aquarian can be like astronomical, and it doesn't do you any favors. So yeah, most of these signs are really known for standing up, fighting, protesting, marching, rallying, trying to get change to happen in the world. You know, these guys are the peace flag sign mums. They're the ones that, you know, tried to get women to vote, the first women in the world to vote. So they usher in this new change, and that's really what it is. It's just about them trying to initiate change in the world. And these guys, this is not their first time at the rodeo. I feel that a lot of Aquarians have acquired past lives and come back in and incarnate at very particular times in our history on this planet as well. And that's kind of just how they are. It just is a thing. They make very good art gallerists, so they're very good at understanding another artist. And I will say, if you're an Aquarian and you feel so detached and so alienated and so ostracized, and you just feel like no one understands you, what I would say is, in my opinion, that you need to find, if you're a creative Aquarian, you need to be with other creatives. There, I said it. That's where you need to be. There's no use in you being with a scientist or someone that, because creativity is not logical. So there'd be no use for you being in a relationship with someone who can't appreciate you and understand your fabulousness and how weird and wacky and wonderful you are and quirky and queer you are. And I mean that in a really good way. By the way, I'm an artist too, so I get it. But you need to be around someone that lets you be who you are, doesn't overshadow you, doesn't want to compete with you, but also is creative too. That way your energy, like, you can vibe off each other, you can learn from each other and support each other, because your artwork is very intellectual. And a lot of the time, I will say, a lot of your art is so futuristic and so out there, and the concepts that you come up with are so different and unique that the world just hasn't caught up to you. They just don't understand what you're doing. But to you, you were brilliant, and you don't get as near as enough credit when it comes to your art and your craft as the world should be giving you. So I see you guys. I understand it. I really understand. Now, a lot of you guys, the darker side of Aquarius is you are very political, and you guys generally have very fixed view signs on politics and the way the world should be run. And you're always looking at the external world with absolute disdain. And sometimes you put yourself on this high pedestal, but you can be quite hypocritical in the sense that you might be like against capitalism and you don't want to be a socialist, but at the same time, you're like, hate capitalism, fuck this, fuck that, the system's fucked, but yet you're saving up money to buy the new pair of Gucci, the new Gucci bag, or the epitome of capitalism is what you're projecting. So you have to be careful with that, Aquarius. If you're going to talk the talk, you have to walk the walk, as so to speak. Because myself, like a Scorpio, I've noticed that with you guys, I'm not looking for what you say. I'm looking for how you behave and what your physical proof is. I'm looking for proof that you're living that life. It's like I have a sip of coffee. I had a vegan girlfriend years ago who was Aquarius, and we haven't spoken in a long time. I'll give you some examples of Aquarius later anyway. But she was a vegan, and it was really for show. Like, she loved to be vegan, but yet she was happy to go and order a chicken when no one was around. That was really interesting to me. And I often wondered, like, where does your loyalty lie? What are you're living in one world, but you're saying another thing. Very similar to that cognitive dissonance thing, where we have a distorted view of the world, and then we create that projection and project that onto other people, even if it's not true. I don't want to, I know that sounds hard, but that's really what cognitive dissonance really is. And so it's weird, but you guys a lot of you guys, the really dark Aquarians, have a real disgust for humanity, in the sense of like your own body. Like, you are disgusted by your own body. Like, you feel very foreign to your physical form. So standing in the mirror and admiring yourself is something that a lot of I nearly said the word unicorn. A lot of you struggle with. By the way, Aquarius is very much a unicorn, and I think that they really see themselves as the archetype of the unicorn. Now, this book that I've got here, this beautiful book series that I've got by the Enchanted World series, which is what I'm using. It's a unicorn on the front of the book. And I was going to actually choose this amazing, by the way, this is graphic. So if you're not up for this might upset some people, but I'm going to turn the page anyway. So pre-warning, yeah. So this beautiful painting panel here was the panel that I was going to choose. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit closer so you can see. Look at the sorrow of this painting. And this is a very powerful painting that was done many years ago. It's it's basically based on the Bulgarian unicorn that went to her village that was tricked, because it was said that the power of her ability could heal their spring. But when she got there, the men slayed her and took her horn. and they used her horn because the horn had magical properties, and it removed magic from the world. And I don't know how, but if you're a Aquarian and you've just seen this, or even if you're watching this and you're not an Aquarian and you're looking at this artwork, just check that out. Like, look how powerful that imagery is. You know, it's just that whole thing where man just can't help themselves. Man just, you know, it's in our nature to destroy the world. It's in our it's like, if you're an Aquarius and you're watching this video, you probably have a lot of disdain for humanity in general, because you see the things that we do to each other as humans and you're just so shocked and so appalled by it. We just can't, humans, it's like a dark Aquarian or a really intellectual Aquarian is going to get to a point in their life where they've really peeled back the curtain, like in The Wizard of Oz, and really seen humanity for what we are. And when you see our violence and our destruction and how we treat each other, we just can't be trusted to take care of the planet. We cannot be trusted to take care of each other or animals. We distort everything. We create false gods. We project everything back into our own image. And a lot of Aquarians, when I'm about to say this may get you right in your heart chakra, because I'm feeling it, is that you see humans as the virus on the planet. You do. And you see it that way because a dark Scorpion like myself can see that too. And we are going to be our own undoing. We really are. And we know that. It's only a matter of time. And that's the type of thing that Aquarius would be thinking about quite often, actually. So I'll just zoom back out. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. Let me know what you think in the comments below about that painting. And if you're, if you identify with unicorn or magic, or even a really good book, and it's an animated movie that was done very well, was the film The Last Unicorn, which was really about the end of unicorns and the magic of a unicorn's power. It was a very beautiful book. I think it was written by E.J. Blight. I'm not sure. I can't quote, but if you're an Aquarian, that film will resonate with what I just said. So yeah, they really, they're like a unicorn. They're very unique and very different and very special. They offer a special power into the world. Unicorns are very magical creatures and they're rare. And that's why I think the archetype of the unicorn has been used so much throughout more of our later history, I think. But yeah, I hope just wanted to share that with you. So yeah, this sign will protest, march. They go too far with it sometimes and they become the thing that they hate the most. So there are a lot of very dark feminists out there, women that really started off really well, like feminism started off really well, and it was like about equality and about like fair wages, or it was about, having the same rights as men. But then they went so dark with it, so deep with that feminism, that they themselves they start to think like a misogynist would, and they started to, like, that self-hate thing. You can become your own worst enemy. And much like the Scorpio, the only thing that could really undo an Aquarian, is yourself. Your own sense of ego can really get in the way. And that's just one of those things that you can fuck you up. So yeah, you've got to be careful with the archetypes that you stand behind, because you can lose yourself inside of them. And that's one thing where it can get very, very dark and you end up hating men, and then you become the inversion or the perversion of what you are projecting onto others. And that can be like telling other people how to live their life when you yourself, aren't living to the standards. Like any advice that you give other people, you have to ask yourself, am I doing that in my own life? And recognize that first, so that you're able to really hold a truth with other people. But your brilliance, for the most part, is completely unseen. And that's why I wanted to give this video as much time and care as I could. And I've decided to do a 2-part series on this sign, because you guys really are the underdogs. Now, you guys need a lot of time on your own, like I've said, like this sign. This sign also, Aquarius, if you're listening, you haven't figured out how to have other and have self at the same time. you haven't figured out, your biggest struggle will be how to figure out, how do I maintain my sense of self-concept with other people at one time? So if you're an Aquarius and you've been single for a very long time, much like a Scorpio, you will struggle to integrate and assimilate back into the dating pool harder than any other sign, because you've become so, like, all of your idiosyncrasies that you do being single will become more and more enmeshed, more and more of a pattern that you'll have to get out of to allow accommodation for someone else to come into your life. Leos do this a lot as well. A single Leo female that has just been able to be on her own for so long, she would have gone, because Leos go out in the world and get what they want. Just on a Leo for a second, because Leo is also the opposite to Aquarius. That's why I'm bringing this up, is that they can appear to be so independent and so strong that a man or another partner that, you know, male, female, whatever, will look at that and go, I don't know how to, like, what do I bring to this person's life when it seems that he or she has everything all together? So it can deter people from wanting to connect with you when you're so independent. And so you have to be vulnerable to some capacity. That's why Aquarius, you have to, even to fall in love, that's why they say falling, letting yourself fall. You have to be vulnerable to open up your heart chakra to let someone else in order to actually have a connection. That's why you guys are so lonely all the time, because you need to understand that. How do I have myself and have other at one time? And that's how they are. Now, I'm going to say something else. Like, I know that would have hit you guys hard then, because it's getting me. This video is getting me. Now, this might sound full on. Don't care. That's what we're here for. Too many other light and fluffy channels on YouTube talking about nonsense. I'm trying to make this real and practical and relatable. A lot of gay Aquarians, or Aquarians that associate with different genders, and hey, nothing wrong with it. By the way, if I'm going to say one thing in this video for Aquarius, souls don't have genders. Repeat, souls don't have genders. The physical form that you're incarnated into on a biological level at birth, yes, it has a gender, okay? And that may not be something that you identify with. And it's not my place to say anything against someone who feels like they were born in the wrong body. That's not my place to do so, and I will never do so. I only support the underdog, just like you. But that being said, now listen, please listen to what I'm about to say, and do not skew this. Do not take this out of context, okay? I have noticed that a lot of Aquarians that identify as a minority in their sexuality, say gay, for example, probably the most common of them, they take being gay and they make that, so being gay, a gay person is just like a part of your life. It's just a part of who you are. It doesn't define who you are, okay? You're not fucking someone of the same sex every second of the day. You've got other aspects to yourself other than, you know, your sexuality. Your sexuality does not define you, okay? It should never define you. It's just a feature of the beautiful being that you are. But with Aquarians, they tend to get very, very caught up in the concept of something rather than understanding and really integrating that in themselves first. So what I'm saying is they take a fraction, a minuscule part of themselves, and they blow it out of proportion and then rub it back into other people's faces to get attention, to be seen. And it's like, I'm different. Look at me. Give me attention. I demand attention. And they're doing it in a way that doesn't really showcase all of the other beautiful parts of themselves, like their mind, their thinking, their work ethic, their abilities. And it really, what it does, it comes across in a way that is disingenuous, and it's just shallow and superficial. That's one of the things that I will say. So it's like, I'm gay, and then they just rub that on everyone. Like, everyone look at me, I'm so gay, I'm so gay. And it's like, but who are you other than being gay? We want to know who you are other than outside of that concept. But if you're a part A, this relates more back to the part A, what I'm saying right now, the type A Aquarius, is that you have such little shallow sense of self-concept that the depth of you that's so shallow can only see the world from the depth that you are now. So you can only love something externally in the world as deeply as you love or understand yourself. So if you have a very low sense of self-understanding, then that's the only level of depth that you can actually see the world from. And this becomes a disservice to you. Okay, so I hope that I've explained that really well. If you don't understand that, just leave a comment below and I'll try and explain it better in the, but I feel like, yeah, you get what I mean. Like you understand what I'm saying. So Aquarius, that's one of the things that you want to do because you're so different and you're so alien-like. You just want to assimilate into society and find a cause to fight for or a movement to fight for. And that can completely consume you until you've lost your own sense of self-concept entirely. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's really like, you didn't come here, Aquarius, to transcend humanism. You came here to be human and you came here to live in this world on a physiological level. So when I see people in the spiritual community and in the world, and it's really, really concerning to me that are trying to transcend humanism while they are still human, that is insane. That is crazy. And I could make a video on all of the extraterrestrial beings that are out there that I've connected with or I've heard about, but I will never do that because it would serve you or me absolutely nothing in the real mundane day-to-day life of our world. That's why I'm more focused on what's happening here on planet Earth than I am being interested in what's happening up on Jupiter or what's happening out in the Galactic Federation. So if you're all caught up in the galactic shit, is that just a cover for you to deflect what you're avoiding here on Earth in your own life? Because I think it is. And that's one thing that really annoys me, and I see it more prevalently than ever before, is that people use spirituality as a coping mechanism for life rather than a tool to improve their life. Just saying. So, and also back on the subject of tarot as well, and I get very upset and very sad when you see people that need to do tarot readings every second minute of the day. If you were in tune with your own sense of self, you would know that you are an extension of source in yourself. You don't need tarot cards every second of the day. Trust yourself. Have enough faith in yourself to know what's right and what's wrong and what feels right. Okay, you don't need to connect with divination. That's just a tool. You yourself have the most powerful, most beautiful tool in you, your own sense of your soul. You're a fractal of the universe inside of you. Okay, you don't need tools. Witches don't need tools. Okay, I need to say that. So yes, if you're an Aquarius, you can lose your own sense of self-concept altogether. So you just do. Now, Aquarians that have overload of the brain, they shut down, they go quiet. And this is something that's very scary. And that's what I was saying before, that a dark Aquarius can really scare a Scorpio. And a Scorpios are like, we can handle ourselves in knife fights. Like we're fine. We're good with life, yeah? Most of us are on the ball. We've got our finger on the pulse, Scorpions. And Aquarians, when they shut down, I'll give you an example. I knew this, I won't say names because he might be watching this video and I still hold a lot of respect for him. We haven't spoken in about 5 years. And I really did admire him at one point in my life. I still do. And everyone's important, you know, like I learned something from everybody. And I must have just pushed him to his limit in a conversation or whatever, for whatever reason. By the way, a lot of Aquarians are born bipolar. Okay, if you're an Aquarian, you probably already know that. You either are bipolar or you have some kind of mood disorder. It's a very common thing with Aquarians. It's actually very, very common with the 3 air signs anyway, especially the Geminis. They have the multiple personalities. And yeah, anyway, so the point of the story was I pushed him to his limit and I didn't realize that I'd done that, and I didn't mean to do it. I just didn't know where his limit was. And I thought we were having a mature conversation, and it got into a little bit of a debate. And when he realized that I'd proven him wrong and I'd been able to like Google the proof and show it to him on my phone, he shut down. And and this is not the first Aquarian that's done this before, because I had a really psychotic housemate. I've had 2 psychotic housemates, which I'll get to later in the story. But this time round, he shut down and they just stare at the wall. He just sat there and he turned his head towards the wall and just stared at the wall, and he wasn't blinking. And I could see that his brain was going into, like, I could see the mechanical parts in his brain all turning, everything. It was really scary. And all of a sudden, what an Aquarius does when they have this meltdown, they go into this silent mood, and then all of a sudden, they just go, ah! Like they just explode, like angry. And they go from being calm, centered, in control, docile, quiet, to 100, like that, like crazy. And I remember it caught me off guard. It really caught me off guard. And I was able to get out of the house and get away from him. And there was an elevator and I was able to get away. But at that point, I didn't know, like at that point, honestly, I thought he was going to go for the kitchen knife and try and stab me. And what I'd realized there is that I just threatened his sense of self-concept. Whenever you threaten a sense of self-concept to an Aquarius, they go into an existential crisis. I probably said too much. I probably shouldn't have even said that. But yes, if you push an Aquarian to a point where you make them question themselves and they see what they've been doing is really off and they thought it was really on, they go into an explosive rage and they go quiet. And in those few seconds or minutes where they just shut down, it's like a computer. Well, they are like a computer. Their brain goes into shutdown mode, and then when it reboots, it's like you have to get away from them physically because you could be hurt. And I've had that 2 times in my life, but that was a time that I will share with you. And I never brought it up to him afterwards, and we were able to recover the friendship. But I remember it was really quite concerning at one point because I thought he was physically going to try and kill me. I'll give you another example as well. I may as well give you examples of Aquarians that I've dealt with. I had another Aquarian housemate that I moved in with years ago, and this was back in my early 20s. And for the most part, we got along, but he was very emotionally detached. By the way, the male Aquarians are more emotionally detached than the female Aquarians, okay? They just are. And I remember he would just stare at the wall. Like when I was moving my furniture into the house, my dad at the time, we were on talking terms, we were on good terms. He came over and he was helping me move, my bed or whatever I had. I was just renting out a room in his house. And I was trying my utmost to be polite and happy and friendly and cordial. And I just wanted this to work. I didn't want to move again. I just wanted to, I thought I'd found a stable housemate. Wow, did I not? And he saw me being nice to him as flirting with him, which was like, whoa, how did you get that? So I'd just say hello to him. How was your day? And, we'd come home as housemates and I'd have a little debrief. Like he would, sometimes we would cook dinner together or just share a meal together. And I just wanted to make an effort. I just didn't want to live in my bedroom, but he saw that, he misread that as I was gay and I wanted to be with him. And that scared the shit out of me because he sent me a text message one day saying, I don't appreciate my heartstrings being tugged on. And I just was like showing it to my friend, like, whoa, dude, like what is going on with you? No way. But that's how he saw it. And the more that I tried to say to him, no, the more that he didn't understand that. And the more he got frustrated with that. So a lot of them have a lot of trouble owning their own behavior. So when you show their own behavior back to them, like if you could videotape it and give it back to them, they get really defensive. And yeah, in the end, he actually threatened to kill me, and he threatened to cut out my eyes and stick them. He wanted them to go up on a jar on the shelf because he liked the color of my eyes. I have light colored eyes, by the way, and he always liked my eyes. And he said that he wanted to cut them out and put them in a jar. And that's when I knew I had to get out. So I literally got my friends over. They came over. He was out, and we got all the stuff out of the house. And within an hour or so, my whole room was cleared out, and I was gone. That was a very dark experience with a very dark Aquarius. He would also like sit in the dark, like in the lounge room. He'd like sit in the dark with like all the lights turned off. Very darkly lit house. They like dark houses, the dark Aquarians. And he'd like just be staring at the wall in an armchair. Also, the dark side of Aquarius is they don't like to pay for things. They like free stuff. The dark side of Aquarius is very entitled. So they believe that, You know, if they could get furniture from their workplace or office furniture or free things from anywhere, they love getting free shit. They love it. And he had all this free stuff. Like his whole house was just full of free stuff. He was very tight with his money, and it was really quite scary. And they're also very big in sci-fi as well. Like I've never met an Aquarius that isn't in sci-fi. If you're an Aquarius and you don't know about Frank Herbert's Dune, the new book, the new movie that's coming out, like the reboot, not the other one that was done years ago, or the Hallmark one. I'm talking about like the new one that's coming out. Then go check that out. Also, there's a lot of interviews on Dune. You guys will love Dune. I often think to myself of a Gonjubar, which is the test that is used in Dune, where Paul Atreides has to have like a poison needle put to the end of his neck, and he's got to put his hand in the box. That's very Aquarius. Aquarians would love the concept of the spice melange, because then they could teleport astrally or physically anywhere in the known universe without even moving. That would be that would be a very Aquarius. So they're anything galactic, anything spacey, anything space travel. They love that. Battlestar Galactica. I often think of Caprica 6 in Battlestar Galactica. She would be an Aquarius. So there you go. There's a really good example. Another really good example, which is more of a fun example of an Aquarian, would probably be Luna Lovechild from Harry Potter. You know, she was so kooky and weird, and she would say something so incredibly profound, and then she would say something completely ridiculous that just makes no sense. And you're like, what did you just what? So she'd say something like, hello, Harry. And he'd be like, hello, Luna. And then she'd be like, I'm trying to do my British accent. I'm trying to do my British accent right now. She'd be like, hello, Harry. Hello, Luna. I saw a mouse drinking from a Coke can. It was fascinating. Like she'd say something so left field, you'd be like, what? That's very Aquarius. She would be an Aquarius, right? Absolute Aquarius. Totally Aquarius. And if you know that character, I think also another Aquarian example I know would be Daria, that animated series she was very sarcastic, kind of hated society, very anti-hero. That would be an Aquarius, if you know that. Selena Kyle, I think I covered that in the first one. She would be an Aquarius, very odd, does her own thing. They go for odd-centered partners as well. I feel like I knew an Aquarian that literally at 18 ran away from home and joined Cirque du Soleil at 18. Like that. Think of a circus. Think of Aquarius. Anything that's weird and wacky and wonderful and fabulous, they love. The swallowing knives and the bearded lady and the joined twins. A really good show for an Aquarian would be Carnival. The HBO's one of HBO's most earliest shows that they did, was just a really great example of an Aquarian show. They're usually in the fashion industry. They love fashion. These guys are very cutting edge. We said that in the first one. I'm starting to think about the other stuff. A lot of Aquarians that I've met don't really drive cars. They don't really ever care to learn how to drive a car. It's almost like they have an expectation that someone else will drive them around, or they'll just catch Ubers everywhere, or they'll catch taxis everywhere. Like I've noticed that with an Aquarian. And their house tends to be one of two ways. An Aquarian house would be very messy, so very chaotic, like cat shit everywhere. I knew this crazy bitch. She was an Aquarian that I go to her house to visit for a cup of tea, and the house just smelled like cat shit. Like she had like the kitty litter in the kitchen, and it was just, I nearly vomited. Like it was really off. And to her, it was completely normal. Like all these cats jumping off the kitchen sink onto the table, and it's just like all neurotic. And all of their furniture is usually mismatchy with that type of Aquarian. So they'll have like Hello Kitty dolls, or they'll have like they're knitting a little kitty thing, or they're making a little trinket, or some weird, wacky shit like that. But yeah, and then the other type of Aquarian that I've noticed is very minimal, very cold, and their house is very like something out of a Vogue magazine, and not in a good way, like very architectural, very like form follows function, very like the couch is sitting on a concrete slab, like that's the couch, like so they're very interesting like that. Now, Aquarians have a lot of weird fetishes. A lot of them, like, it could be like popping styrofoam in their fingers, or popping, like, you know, the plastic bubbles, bubble wrap, or it could be like popping a balloon, or chewing on chewing gum and blowing a bubble. Some of them get turned on by really weird fetishes. So it could be, you know, sound fetishes where, you know, when people like eat weird food and they eat noodles and you watch someone else eat the food. Another thing that I've noticed as well, Aquarians are drawn to people that whisper. They're like people that whisper, people that talk like this. Hello, how are you? Hello, honey. Like that type of shit. To me, it's creepy as hell, but Aquarians are weird like that. Now, a really, really good example of a dark Aquarius show, which you may or may not know about. I'm shocked that a lot of people still don't know about this show. Was a show that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it was way, way before its time. And it was an animated series called Aeon Flux. So if you've heard of that show, then you'll know how, if you know of that show, you'll know how incredibly bizarre that show is. And Aeon Flux, even like the way it was drawn, the way it was animated, the way that it was, the character, the way that she moved, her costume was very, very Aquarian. Very Aquarian. Like, I can't even stress that enough. And the concept of the show was a futuristic world where in every episode, Aeon, the female antagonist, dies every episode. And it's like, is she good? Is she bad? She's fighting on her own side against this evil world that she's against. And so the guy that she was against in the show, like, his name was Trevor Goodchild. She would, in some episodes, have sex with him, even though she's trying to kill him. Like, and it was very interesting, like very weird. Like, she would be able to do backflip somersaults and land on her feet, and then she'd be able to catch like a little fly with her eyelash. Or she could, very weird, like very, very left of field. And the styling of that filming of it, and the concept work of that was just so interesting. Like, Aquarians would lick inside your ear to taste your earwax. Like, they would do weird things like that. They're very weird sexually. Like, an Aquarian having sex with a Scorpio would be just straight up kinky, weird stuff. And I think a lot of people that grew up in the age of Aquarius in their younger years really see Aquarian as like Aquarius, very like 60s, 70s, like retro, like think of Scooby-Doo, shag pile rug with like curtains with flat little peace star flowers on it, lots of brown colors and pink colors, lots of things like that. Now, aesthetically, the male Aquarian tends to have a very large shaped skull. Their brain, their beautiful, gorgeous brain is just so big. It just like, it looks out of proportion to their head. And one of the things that I've noticed with the Aquarian male, sometimes their head, it seems almost like a bubble head. If they haven't been doing weights or built up their upper body, they tend to look a little bit out of proportion. And that's one of the things that I can do when I see it, because I can read star signs from just looking at a person these days, but they tend to have that way. Or they're very skinny. A lot of Aquarians are into being very, very skinny. They see food as something that they don't really want to eat because food grounds their body, and astrally they don't want to be grounded. They want to be out in space, floating around. That's one thing that I noticed when I was doing my tarot readings and mediumship, is that I don't eat before I have a client. I eat after I have a client, because the less food that I have in my body, the further I can go out into like the astral realm to do a reading. Hey, it's just how I am. You might be the opposite, but for me, that's how it works. And so that's, yeah, they're very interesting like that. So a lot of them are into being really skinny. Like, they have very little body fat on them, very skinny, very scrawny. A lot of Aquarians I've noticed. And when they gain weight, they have a lot of trouble losing the weight as well. They have a lot of trouble if they end up losing their weight. And as an Aquarius kid, I had a friend that was an Aquarius. She would always have like long sleeve shirts with button up, and she'd do the button right up to the very top, like right up to the top, so it's very tight around her neck. And that was just her style. And I really loved, I love the Aquarian style. It's very different and very unique. And she used to slick her hair with this gel. So she had this very slicked look with very beautiful, beautiful eye makeup that she used to do. Very, very hard on the eyeliner as well. A lot of Aquarians, they like to accentuate their eyes, so their eyes look like a cat, very Egyptian-like. They they like to do that. If you're an Aquarian, hi, maybe you do that. But I noticed that's how they like to do their makeup, and they like mismatchy stuff as well. So these guys can, if you took, like, a lot of these guys are stylists. Like if you took them into an empty space that was just like an empty warehouse, they would know just instinctively what to do with the space. Put this chair here, move that coffee table there. They just know how to make a space work. These guys are very good with that. I hope that you're enjoying this video. Now, a lot of Aquarian women are closeted, I've noticed. One of them being Oprah. So she has, it's often been said that she is a lesbian, but she doesn't want to come out and own her truth. Same problem that we have with the Geminis that don't want to own their truth. So what they do is they date people that are gay, and then the gay person has to keep them a secret, which is like just really very difficult on the gay person, because they've had to take the time and they've had the bravery to come out of the closet and own their truth. And the Aquarian won't own their truth. So it's very hard to have a relationship with someone that denies the concept of you guys even being together in the first place. And then there's a famous word that is used here in Australia and probably in America, and it's called beard. And it's when a closeted woman uses a man as her decoy husband. This is also very common with the Aquarians. They tend to do that. The Aquarian women tend to do that. I've noticed it, and it's really quite weird. I've got a friend who is actually exactly in that same situation as well, and she is an Aquarian, but she just won't own the fact that she's gay. So it's really weird, because it's like Aquarian, the dark side of an Aquarian is only in a relationship for like security. They're only in a relationship for the dual income. They're not there for love. They're just there for the spoils. Like this sign will, as long as they're getting your paycheck, as long as a dark-sided Aquarian is getting your paycheck, you could look like Shrek and they'd still date you and fuck you. Now, a lot of Aquarians are very kinky when it comes to sex, like I've said before. So they can be very frigid at times, but a lot of the female Aquarians that I've noticed are into swinger parties. They're into group sex. And a lot of Aquarian women, if they feel that the man can't cut it for them in the bedroom, they'll just masturbate. They're serial masturbators. They just do that. Like that's how they are. They discover their own body, and they prefer to just play with their own body than play with a man. Also, they are into cuck porn as well, a lot of them. So they'll have cuck porn is when a woman gets another man to fuck her and make her husband watch, and it turns him on or it turns her on by demoralizing her husband because he can't do what the other man can. That's very, very dark-sided Aquarian as well, because it can be demoralizing to the other person, and it's a power play. A lot of Aquarian women in relationships are into strap-ons, so they'll end up getting a strap-on on and fucking their husband or other half or partner or whatever. They're into very kinky stuff, like I said. And a lot of them is like, you can look but you can't touch. That's how a lot of them are. So a lot of Aquarian women would be on like fans only or OnlyFans or stuff like that, which would be a cyber way for them to support themselves by just showing off their body without you having to touch them. And that's a lot of how they are. They like to travel. Aquarians like the spice of life. So these guys travel around a lot. They are happy with, being out in the world. They see the world as an adventure. So it's a very adventurous. A really good match for an Aquarius would probably be a Sagittarian, because Sag also sees the world as their home, not just their home as their home. So they're good. They'd be good with the Sag, and Sages are committed to expansion, and so is Aquarius. So it'd be a pretty good match there as well. So yeah, now Aquarians get really annoyed with the unfairness of the world. This sign, and I really respect this, these guys will talk about China. These guys will talk. Did you know that there's what they call, in China, they're called wedges. And I'm not sure if you know this, but in this world right now, today, 2021, there are concentration camps in the world. There is slavery in the world, everywhere. And Aquarians know that. It's particularly in China. I think it's over 10 million people in China in concentration camps. They're ethnic minorities that are imprisoned in China. And Aquarius is not afraid to talk about this. I've noticed this with Aquarians. They have no fear. Most celebrities would never mention China, but an Aquarian will. They will talk about how, like, this is wrong. This is fucked up. These guys are really big on humanitarianism. These guys are really out there. These are like the Greta Thunbergs of the world. They want to bring stuff out and be like, this is what's going on, and we need to have conversations about the environment. These guys work for Greenpeace. Like I said, they're very green, like the Greens in political, like they're very political like that. They'll be on the Greens team. Their team, what's the word? Team Earth, planet Earth. Like that's what they're there for. And yeah, that's how they are. Oh my God, this video is getting long again. I could just talk about Aquarians all the time. I'm trying to bring out a few things that you may not know about Aquarian, or the darker side of Aquarians as well. They're like the Riddler, like Edward Nigma from the Batman series. They're like a riddle. One of the things that's dark about Aquarians is that they say, oh, I'm not understood. You can't get me. No one understands me. And then, so they want to be understood. They crave to be understood. And then the moment that someone understands them or figures them out, they don't want to be understood anymore. It's like, who the hell do you think you are? I've noticed that a lot as well. Cersei Lannister would probably be an Aquarius. They tend to hang out with people that are rich. And a really dark Aquarius wouldn't be afraid of incest. Often watching Game of Thrones, I thought to myself, Daenerys Targaryen would definitely be a Scorpio, and Cersei Lannister would definitely be an Aquarian. Like the incest with her brother Jaime Lannister, that would be pretty normal for an Aquarian as well. Now, I was watching a movie the other day called Hereditary, and it's an incredible film, very dark, very heavy film. Me watching a heavy film, like, of course I am. And I was watching the film, and it was the character of the mother that's played by fellow Aussie Toni Collette plays the mother, and she does little dolls, like she builds little doll houses, really intricate little doll houses, and she's making these beautiful doll houses, but they're reenactments of scenes that have happened from her life. That is so Aquarian. So in order for them to understand stuff, they have to recreate the scene through their art. So a lot of them are recreating scenes. Like I've been to galleries that have had Aquarian artists where they'll recreate a painting of the time they had their abortion, or the time that they were raped, or the time that they were dumped. They recreate things in their art, and they use their art to, they use their life to pull from to create art. I hope that made sense. That's another thing that they tend to do. So little doll houses and little, very small, intricate little things that they make, like pretty little tropical fish, or little like knickknacks and things like that. They love that. They love, they'd be really good on the pottery wheel, very good on the pottery wheel. Now, one of the things that happens with Aquarius is when something really bad happens, the dark side of Aquarian, they forget it. They erase it. Never happened. That's what they do. And this is where that shame problem comes in, because Aquarians have a lot of problem with shame. So they'll keep the shame of something that they've done. They will go out in the world and commit an incredible atrocity. Terrible, inflict pain on someone else, because they themselves are in pain. And now what they do is they just write it off like it never happened. They go home, they change their clothes, have a shower, never bring it up, never talk about it ever again. And no matter what you say to them, it never happened. And I've seen Aquarians do this. I know an Aquarian who does this. This is his coping mechanism for life. And it's really, really dysfunctional. But that's how they are. They can just erase a whole thing that happened like it never happened. But what happens is, as we know, the more that you push down, the more that you suppress something, the more that you deny, deflect, and disown it, the bigger and bigger and bigger it gets. It doesn't go away. And that is a very, very dark thing that they do. So yeah, I've noticed that a lot. Like they could say something that they should feel terrible for saying, but they don't, because it never happened. They just never happened. They have a lot of skeletons in their closet. Okay, a lot of them, they don't want these skeletons to come out. So a lot of them could move around a lot. A lot of the dark side of Aquarians, they just move from spot to spot to spot to spot. And they leave a trail of destruction wherever they go. Like most psychopaths, they can't just stay in one place, because they burn everyone around them. They burn all their bridges. So they just up and move onto the next poor bastard, onto the next place. And just the next person's going to get it now. Now, this sign really fundamentally is not meant to be understood. Aquarius is not meant to be understood. This sign is meant to be experienced. Okay? And like I thought to myself, the story of the magical fish that was caught, I often think of Aquarius like that. This sign, it's such an enigma to itself that they themselves know that deep down, and that's why they have such problems within their own psyche, because they're just trying to unpack something that is just so incredibly dense. Like the denseness of the complexity of an Aquarian's psyche is something that you could just study forever. Like it's so interesting, but they live in their head too much. And I think that a lot of them, they just live in their head. You need to get out of your head and get into your heart. Now, they like transient music. A lot of Aquarians really enjoy very psychedelic trance music that's very transcendental, can take them, like shifting them out of one state of consciousness into another. A lot of Aquarians, when I published my tarot deck, the Algoliath tarot deck with all the animals and it's all black and white and all the shadow stuff, they loved it. I had a really good response from Aquarians because they took the time to unpack and understand why I chose which animal I chose in my artwork. So I feel very seen myself by them in general, because they understand what art is. Art is supposed to be, well, art for itself. Okay, to an Aquarian would not be interested in making art that just like looks like a pretty picture just to be pretty on the wall for an aesthetic purposes. An Aquarian wants to make art to tell you something that you didn't know before. Aquarius wants to do something that is undone, not something that is done. So that's what turns them on, yeah? That's why they are very good abstract artists. A lot of them make these beautiful abstract paintings. A lot of them are very technical artists like myself, where it's very hyperrealism. They do that as well, but they tend to be more towards like distorting things. So they have like more of a meaning or more kind of playing with shapes and forms. That tends to be how the Aquarian artist works. Now, an Aquarian kid could literally just pull the telephone apart and then try and put it all back together again. Libra can do that a lot as well. They just want to see how it works. They need to understand how things work. And that's why Aquarius is not afraid of the darker aspects of life, because they want to know how it works. I've got a girlfriend as well. Sip of the tea. I've got a girlfriend as well who is an Aquarian, and she always lived in her bedroom. So they live in their bedroom a lot as kids. They never come out. The door's always shut. And if you went up to the door and pressed your ear against the door, it would be like you'd hear nothing. You wouldn't really hear anything in the room, because God, like, what are they doing in there? Like, it's so mysterious. Like, they're so weird. And she used to love going vintage shopping. Loved it. Like, she'd love to go shopping. And I began to understand, and one time I went with her and we were looking at all of these clothes and jackets and belts and buckles and dresses and stuff. And she was so much fun because she was so out there. She had these big parrot earrings and very bright colored hair, very much what I've described to you in the video. And she put on this rainbow colored jacket, and it was a beautiful jacket, and it was just, you know, fabulous to her. Not so much for me, not for me, but she liked it and she put it on. And I said to her, what is it about like secondhand clothes that you love so much? And she said to me, it makes me, when I put on the jacket, I feel what the other person felt, and it makes me feel more human. And that I was like, whoa, oh my God, what? Yep. And I understood, because she's so alien, they love to try on personas of other people. So what she could do, her psyche could pick up the energy of the other person that was wearing this vintage jacket, because she wanted to feel what it was like to be the person that wore it. Yet again, they're just trying to feel, they're trying to understand. And I had another Aquarius male friend who was a very talented artist, and he was a minimalist, not a maximalist. And I went to his apartment once, and his whole apartment was empty, studio. A lot of artists, a lot of Aquarians live in their studios, by the way. And all he had to his name was a mattress on the floor, a plastic chair from like Walmart or Bunnings or something, and that's it. And there was like a radio clock. That was it. Never cooked in there. That's just how he lived. Just, yep, his whole life could just fit in a plastic bag. He was completely and utterly unconcerned with conventional living in a Western society. And I just found that so creative and so interesting. A lot of the Aquarians, as they get older and they get very disappointed with life, they tend to prefer animals over humans. So that cat lady thing, like they'll get a dog or a cat and that'll be their best friend. They just get over humans altogether. They've had enough of humans. And if they live in their spaceship, in their apartment or in their house, they become very reclusive and they just give up on society. A lot of them do. I've known a couple of them. And I get it. I understand it. And I went through a period where I didn't want to come out of my house for a long time. And it's something that, it's what they do. So anyway, I think that I'm going to leave it here because I've gone on pretty hard on I said Scorpio. I've gone pretty hard on the Aquarians. I could go on and on and on. And, who knows, in the future, I'm going to end up making a light-sided series as well. So I think that I've really uncovered a lot in this series here so far. And I've saved the worst for last. We are looking I'm joking. We're looking at Libra as the last one that I'm doing. So thank you so much for sticking around if you've made it this far through the video. I hope that you've enjoyed my take on the beautiful, weird, wacky, misunderstood, freak-a-leak Aquarians. If you know them, hopefully you might be able to understand them better now. And if you don't and you are an Aquarian, well, I hope that you felt seen. In any case, please leave a comment below. Give me a thumbs up if you like this video. Please share it with other people that you think might enjoy learning about this. And I will see you in the final video of this series, the Libra, the last air sign. Thank you once again. Blessings to you. Bye.